your daily English dose. Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
This is where we cut through the noise, and get right to the strategies you actually need. So maybe you've been studying English for ages, like you do well on grammar tests, you watch movies, read books, you're constantly taking stuff in. But then the second someone asks you to actually speak, you freeze. Just total panic. If that sounds like you, then this deep dive is absolutely for you. You feel like you know the words, they're in there somewhere, but actually saying them feels impossible.
It's super frustrating, right? You're thinking, why? Why am I still so anxious about speaking?
That exact moment, that panic is what we're focusing on today. We're digging into some really comprehensive analysis here, looking at why learners feel this anxiety. Our mission, to get past the usual advice and find the real, the psychological root of the problem. Because the data, it's pretty clear. This isn't just about language skills. No, it's much deeper. It's tied up with needing to be perfect and this huge fear of failing.
Yeah, and the data really pinpoints when that panic spikes, doesn't it? It does. The analysis shows the #1 trigger for almost half of learners, 49%, actually is being asked to speak immediately without any preparation time.
Instant demand.
Exactly. That moment you're just put on the spot. So today, we're giving you the blueprint. Not just what to study, but really how to change your whole approach mentally. We'll give you some practical skills too, and lay out a roadmap to help you beat that instant panic.
Okay, right. Let's start with that psychological side then.
Yeah.
If speaking anxiety is like this big wall, what's it actually made of? What are the sources saying is the core fear?
The core fear identified is really about shame and intense self-criticism. You see, when learners try to speak, there's often this sometimes culturally driven expectation that it has to be perfect, you know? Flawless grammar, perfect pronunciation. And if it's not perfect, boom, they see it as a complete personal failure.
And that pressure just builds up inside.
It creates this massive internal resistance, which naturally leads to avoiding speaking altogether. And that's the exact opposite of what you need to do to get better.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
You're scared of being imperfect, so you don't even try, which means you never improve. But you mentioned something else interesting, how this pressure messes with the actual thinking process.
Yes, exactly. It's compounded by this cognitive issue. Learners often get caught in what the analysis calls the translation trap.
The translation trap.
Okay.
What's that?
Instead of just thinking and speaking in English, their brain goes through this 3-step process. First, they form the whole thought in their native language.
Right.
Second, they mentally translate that entire sentence into English, word for word sometimes.
Oh, wow.
And only then, step 3, do they actually try to say the translated sentence out loud.
And I guess when a real conversation is happening fast.
Disaster. Well, maybe not disaster, but definitely delay. Significant delay. Stuttering, lots of ums and ums, because think about it, the mental effort involved in that trap is huge. You just can't keep up with the normal conversation pace.
And when you stumble.
That self-criticism kicks right back in. It confirms that negative belief. See? I am bad at this.
It's a vicious cycle.
Totally. And it makes you want to avoid speaking even more in the future, so you never really develop that ability to process and respond in real time.
So listen, if you're tuning in, and this sounds familiar, just know your struggle isn't necessarily about how much vocabulary you know. It's often about how your brain is trying to handle it.
Precisely. And that's why the absolute first, most critical step, it's a mindset shift.
Yeah.
The sources really hammer this home. You have to stop seeing errors as shame. Stop seeing them as failure. Start looking at them as improvement data. Useful information.
Like at a game.
Exactly like a game. Think about it. If you fail level 1, you don't just throw the controller down and quit forever.
No, you figure out what went wrong.
Right. You analyze why you failed, you get some data, and you try again, maybe a bit differently. That anxiety block, it only starts to crumble when you accept that mistakes are not just okay. They're actually required for you to learn and grow.
That's a powerful shift. Okay, but changing your mindset, that takes time, doesn't it? It's not overnight.
Definitely not.
So while we're working on that, we also need some, immediate help, quick wins. The data showed a kind of matrix of skills, right? Things that give maximum confidence for minimum difficulty.
Yes, absolutely. We need some instant safety nets, especially for those really high-stress moments.
And where does the data say stress is highest?
Consistently, it points to situations where mistakes could have real-world consequences. Like, think overseas travel or handling an emergency. Situations where messing up could affect your safety or your belongings.
Yeah, okay. The stakes feel incredibly high then. And you might need very specific words you don't use every day.
Exactly. So, actionable tip number 1. Master some basic survival English. And the goal here needs to be super simple. Focus on effective transmission. Just getting your message understood. Forget perfect grammar for a moment. Forget fluency.
Just communicate the core need.
Precisely. Spend a little time memorizing some really simple, high-value phrases for those worst-case scenarios. Things like, where's the nearest hospital? Or where's the police station?
Or like, I lost my passport, my bag was stolen.
Yes. Or even just, please stop, I don't understand. Low difficulty to learn, but they provide huge psychological assurance.
I can see that. Just knowing you have those phrases ready, even if you say them imperfectly, must lower the anxiety baseline for everything else.
It really does. It gives you an immediate feeling of having some control, some security. Once you feel you can handle the absolute worst case, the everyday stuff feels a bit less scary.
Okay, good starting point. Now let's pivot. What about just normal daily conversation, that fear of awkward silence,
Oh.
or feeling like you can't keep up when someone's talking fast?
Ah, yes. That requires a different set of tools, more strategic linguistic tools. We can call them conversation fillers or connecting phrases.
Conversation fillers,
Well,
like,
well, yes, those are basic fillers, but I mean slightly more structured phrases. Think of them as social lubricants and tactical tools. Their main job is to manage that fear of silence. They buy you a few vital seconds to gather your thoughts, but without stopping the conversation cold.
Okay, give me some examples. What are these high-value fillers?
Things that are short, easy to say, and totally normal in conversation, like, you know what, or let me think about that for a second. Or even things like, that's a great question. Or, well, for some reason.
Things that signal you're still engaged.
Exactly. They tell your conversation partner, hey, I'm still here, I'm listening, I just need a beat to think. It keeps the connection alive.
So it's less about having the perfect answer instantly and more about just managing the flow, showing you're still participating.
Precisely. Which leads to actionable tip number 2. Use connection and reaction phrases. In some studies, they call this aizuchi. Use simple reactions like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I see, right, totally. Just little things to show you're tracking.
Keep the social vibe going.
Yes. And crucially, part of this is practicing the courage to ask for clarification. This is huge. You need to practice saying calmly and confidently something like, I'm sorry, I'm still learning English. Could you please say that again, maybe a bit slower?
Or could you rephrase that?
Yes. That single request is like a pressure release valve. It shifts the responsibility slightly. It's no longer just on you to understand everything instantly. It asks the other person to adjust, which immediately lowers your stress.
Okay, I really like that. It changes the whole dynamic.
It really does. By mastering these kinds of low difficulty, high assurance skills, survival phrases, fillers, asking for clarification, you're fundamentally changing your goal. You're shifting away from the impossible target of speaking perfectly towards the much more achievable one of simply keeping the conversation going.
And that shift itself makes practicing feel less daunting.
Substantially less daunting. It lowers the mental hurdle.
Excellent. Okay, so we've dealt with the immediate panic, we've got some safety nets, but what about the long game? Building the actual engine, how do we finally bridge that huge, often painful gap between all the reading, the listening, and the output, actually producing fluent speech?
Right. For that, we need to install the most critical bridge connecting input and output. And the sources are incredibly clear on this. That bridge is shadowing.
Shadowing. Okay, we hear this term a lot. For someone listening who needs to start today, why is this specific technique so powerful against speaking anxiety? And how do they actually begin?
It's powerful because it forces you, essentially, to bypass that translation trap we talked about completely. You listen to a short piece of native English audio, maybe just 30 seconds to start, and you try to repeat it immediately, almost at the same time as you hear it.
Like an echo.
Kind of, but faster. You're connecting the sound you hear directly to the physical act of making that sound with your mouth, your tongue. Your brain literally doesn't have time to translate back and forth.
So it's training your brain to process English in English.
That's exactly it. And this is absolutely vital for mastering things like English-specific sounds, the rhythm, the intonation, and also something native speakers do constantly without thinking, linking. How words flow together, those liaisons. Shadowing helps you internalize that.
Okay, how to start? What kind of material?
Pick something you can already understand pretty well, maybe like 80% comprehension. A short audio clip, a podcast snippet. Listen once just to get the meaning. Then listen again and try to shadow speak along right after the speaker. Don't worry about perfection at first.
Just try to keep up.
Yes, and start small. Maybe just 5 or 10 minutes a day. Consistency is way more important than doing long, exhausting sessions once in a while.
Got it. Consistent, short bursts. Okay, that covers this sort of technical, intensive practice. What about just getting more comfortable with the act of speaking, producing volume, getting words to flow, but without that constant fear of being judged?
For that, the sources strongly push solo practice.
Talking to yourself.
Pretty much. Low-pressure habits like keeping an English journal, maybe writing down your thoughts, but crucially, yes, actually talking out loud to yourself in English. Think about it. These habits drastically lower the barriers. There's zero external judgment, zero fear of making a mistake in front of someone.
Okay, but if I'm just starting, what do I even talk about? It feels a bit weird. I can't just launch into a philosophical monologue.
No, start really simple. Narrate your day. Just describe what you're doing, what you see around you, what you're planning. Like, okay, I'm walking to the kitchen now. I think I'll make some coffee. Oh, wait, I'm out of milk. That's annoying.
Stream of consciousness, basically.
Exactly. Or summarize a short news article you just read out loud. The point isn't profound content. It's training your brain to form English sentences quickly, fluidly. It's like rehearsing sentence structures in a completely safe space, so the words start to flow more easily when you do need them.
That makes sense. Practice without pressure. Okay, so that's the internal work. But learning can feel isolating, and you mentioned the sources talk about community. Why is finding other learners or using online resources so important?
Because honestly, the biggest psychological hurdle for so many isn't just skill, it's that awful feeling of being totally alone in the struggle. Learning communities, whether that's, social media groups, local meetups, online classes, they provide empathy. They give you concrete proof that everyone makes mistakes no matter their level.
See, you're not the only one.
Yes. And that shared experience does something really powerful. It transforms that private, terrifying fear of judgment into just constructive feedback. Or even just shared experience. It makes the environment feel psychologically safe. Safe enough to try things, to make mistakes publicly, knowing you'll get support, not ridicule.
Community builds resilience.
Definitely. And alongside that psychological support, you also need practical help, right? The sources mention things like using dedicated Q&A sites or tools to quickly get answers to specific questions you get stuck on.
Like, how do you say X? Or is this sentence natural?
Exactly. Things like DMM's Nante You Know feature were highlighted as useful for that. Getting those little roadblocks cleared quickly stops you from just getting completely stuck and losing motivation. You really need both parts, the community support and the ways to get quick, specific answers.
Okay, so pulling this all together then, what's the big takeaway for someone listening right now? It feels like the path to speaking fluently isn't just about cramming more vocabulary.
Not at all. It's fundamentally about changing your mental game, your approach to errors, to failure, and prioritizing consistent, practical output, actually speaking, over some impossible standard of perfect performance.
Sounds like adopting a more human approach.
Yes, exactly. A human-centered approach to your learning. You have to prioritize reforming that mindset, shifting from chasing perfection, which is paralyzing, to aiming for effective transmission, just getting your message across. Remember those small wins we talked about. Successfully using a connecting phrase, getting through an emergency question, using your survival English. Those small successes build self-belief. They give you the fuel, the motivation to tackle the bigger, more demanding things like daily shadowing.
So think back to that idea the sources mentioned, learning as a level-up game, where every mistake isn't the end of the world, it's just level 1 data, information for the next try, not some final verdict on you. If you really embrace that perspective starting today, what's one slightly ambitious output task you can commit to trying? Maybe it's just talking to yourself out loud for 5 minutes.
Or doing a 10-minute shadowing session.
Or maybe deciding that next time you don't understand, you will confidently ask for clarification. What game move can you play today?
Take that first psychological step. Make that commitment. The skills will follow.
Your daily English dose.